It's the off season, but that means it's recruiting season. We're going to talk about some of the newest commits to the West Virginia football 2026 roster. We're also going to talk about a big visitor that's on campus for the West Virginia men's basketball team. We're going to talk about all that in this episode. I think it's episode 37 of the Gold and Blue Breakdown Show, brought to you by West Virginia Sports Chat. And I'm here with my partner and coach, Jonathan. Jonathan, what's up, man?
Couz, what's going on? Yeah, recruiting never sleeps, whether it be high school recruiting and or portal recruiting. So it's the off season for, I guess, the football team, but not the off season for recruiting. So
Right.
It's actually just picking up. So busy times.
Yep, absolutely. And just to give you everyone a heads up, go over to the website, WVSportsChat.com. Jonathan has written several articles over there about the commits we're going to talk about tonight. Or you may be watching this today or listening to this today, but nonetheless, we're recording this on Wednesday night. The ones we're going to talk about here are over there at the site. And then there's also all the other commits he's also written articles on over there as well. And then we're also going to talk a little hoops. There's a pretty big visitor on campus from the portal that we're going to talk about later in the show. Before we get started, though, let's go ahead and dive in and give a shout out to our sponsor. We'll be right back. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. Thanks for hanging around with us, Jonathan. Let's go ahead and dive into the football, man. We're not going to talk about every commit that we haven't done a show in a couple of weeks. There's been a lot of verbal commitments. I want to touch on all of them, but we're going to touch on some key ones that we think that we feel are big pieces to the roster, and then some that you might be interested in. And the first one is an in-state recruit, Malachi Thompson, Kennedy Award winner out of Nitro High School here in West Virginia. What are your thoughts on this young man, Jonathan?
Yeah, Couz, and as you noted when we first opened the show, if we do not talk necessarily about a specific recruit, you can go over to the website, WVSportsChat.com. There are articles from every single commitment, 26 and 27 class over to website. So I would encourage you to go over there. Malachi Thompson, yeah, Couz, it's a household name in the state of West Virginia amongst high school football. And the West Virginia coaches, it was on the radar a little bit, but Rich Rodriguez and his staff been new or coming back and refreshing some roots here, and some of those offensive coaches been new in Morgantown. They kind of had to relearn a little bit about Malachi Thompson, Nitro High School in West Virginia. Because he's big, 6'5", 200, 205. Marshall, Ohio, Temple, Toledo, a few others had offered as well before he committed to West Virginia. The numbers speak for themselves. He really impressed the coaches at a 7-on-7 camp. Word from that camp was he put on a performance. Athleticism, the versatility, played on the outside, one-handed grabs. I mean, he pretty much did everything at that camp. And that was all the coaches need to see in person. An offer was extended, and not too long after that, a commitment. Because his numbers last year, I'm not sure impressive is a good enough word. 74 catches, 1,593 yards, 18 touchdowns, and probably the craziest part of that stat, it could have been higher, could have been more. Their coaches there at Nitro actually have talked about how they had to kind of quit throwing the football at times last year because of some scores in some games. So 74 catches, almost 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns, and likely easily could have been higher. Very impressive.
Tell you what else I like about him too, Jonathan. 6'5", 200 pounds. He already, I mean, from a physical, he could come in. This is a young man, and just think he still has another year high school ball to play.
Yeah.
He will be ready to come in day one and be physically ready to go, in my opinion, at that size and that length. Now, will his skills be ready to go. We don't know that yet. But, Coach Rodriguez has said point blank, we don't care if a guy's a freshman or a senior transfer.
Yeah.
We're not going to bring a guy in if we don't think he can help us win right now. So, and when you look at 6'5", 200 pounds and that type of production, no brainer, especially considering the fact he's an in-state kid. And Jonathan, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I don't. He has a chance to be a back-to-back Kennedy Award Moss Award winner, right?
Yeah.
Has there ever been anybody to win it 2 years in a row?
I'm not sure. I would think possibly maybe in the history. For those that don't know, a Randy Moss award winner, the Randy Moss Award in the state of West Virginia is given to the best wide receiver in the state of West Virginia. And Couz, there's some competition there. There's some really good wide receivers in the state of West Virginia. So don't think that he's just kind of got just a clear pathway to winning it again. There's some competition, but he's that good, and it wouldn't surprise me if he did win it again. I think a lot of times what happens, Couz, and this is something that we know, and a lot of our listeners and those that watch the show, West Virginia, the state of West Virginia recruits tend to have a little bit of a they got to go out to these camps and perform, right? Because there's always been questions about the level of competition that they face during the season. I will say that seems to have changed a little bit over the years in a good way, which is great news for these athletes. But when these players like Thompson get on campus, they get in camps, they travel to West Virginia, they go to Virginia Tech, they go down to Florida, South Carolina, and they put and coaches realize, hey, this guy can compete. He can play. And that's exactly what happened here with Malachi Thompson. Just big, physical, and extremely talented. And his future is extremely bright. And he's, like you said, he's got another year in high school, only going to get bigger, stronger, faster, and get more skilled.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see that young man. I haven't looked to see I don't know if Nitro has Princeton on the schedule this year, but if they do, I'm going to try my best to see that one. I want to see this young man in person before he gets to Morgantown. It'll be exciting.
He's a really good one. So hopefully we get a chance to see him.
And by the way, West Virginia's had this will make the third receiver in 4 years. I don't think it's been 3 in a row, but anyway, the third Randy Moss Award. Dom Collins was a Randy Moss Award winner. Hudson Clement, I think, was a Randy Moss Award winner. Was he not?
I think so.
So anyway, neither one of them are on the roster anymore. So hopefully that doesn't mean Malachi Thompson won't be around a while. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the next guy that we're going to talk about. This guy is a big ugly, Camden Goforth, offensive lineman. What are your thoughts on Camden Goforth?
Yeah, just big, strong, and physical. How's that? Was on campus just a few weeks back. Was previously committed to Coastal Carolina in early June. West Virginia staff continued their pursuit of him, and shortly after leaving campus, made the commitment to West Virginia. Yeah, Couz big, really strong, 6'4", almost 300 pounds, from Athens, Tennessee. I'll tell you what impressed me a lot. When I talked to him about his commitment to West Virginia and flipping from Coastal Carolina, he was extremely complimentary of Coastal Carolina. And wanted to make a point that his flip of a commitment and his change in decision was nothing negative on Coastal Carolina, that he just felt like the opportunity at West Virginia under Coach Rodriguez and his staff, he used the words life-changing, Couz.
Wow.
And so, in some discussion with him, it became very clear, just an excellent head on his shoulders. It's rare in today's recruiting world when a player flips a commitment, that they go out of their way to talk positive about the school that they're leaving. And you could just sense that his heart was with West Virginia. But a 3-star, according to Rivals, had offers from obviously Coastal Carolina, NC State, Memphis, Tulane, Liberty, a handful of others. And again, reverting back, I would encourage you, go to his X account and watch some of his workouts, watch some of his tape. He is unbelievably strong. He's almost like farm strong. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Oh
like
yeah.
he's just a big old boy, man. And if I was a running back or a quarterback, I'd like to be playing behind him. I promise you that.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look at West Virginia, by the way, he's rated as the number 21 21st rated player in the state of Tennessee, if I read that right. So, he comes from he's jumping up the recruiting rankings, as you mentioned. But West Virginia right now has the 4th highest rated class in the Big 12, according to 24/7 Sports, for the 2026 class. In all fairness, they're 4th because they do have more commits than most of the other schools in the conference. So it looks like Coach Rod is not going to try to lean as heavily on transfers in the future. Mm-hmm. They have 22 commits. 21 of those 22 are 3-stars. There are no 4-stars and no 5-stars, according to 24/7 Sports. Average player rating is 85.88, which, as I'm looking here, is the 4th lowest in the league.
And I will tell
you,
Couz,
3rd lowest in the league.
Yeah, and I will tell you that right now, the ratings on these players are I don't want to say complete grain of salt, but it is the off season, and those rankings will change. And to be fair, Couz, it'll change for every school, right?
Oh,
every school,
sure.
every player, every prospect. But once summer evaluations are over, and we are early in this process of summer camps, once the summer evaluation is over, once you get into the season, and let's be honest about it, Couz, when you see a player that has an offer from certain schools, maybe in MAC conferences or Sun Belt Conference or whatever, the rating tends to stay low. And then as soon as a Big 12 school and an ACC school jumps in the mix, Couz, what happens? it goes up. And so, again, in fairness, I think it's going to happen to every school and just about every prospect. But I would expect some of these ratings here in the next several months to really jump. And you mentioned it. Camden Goforth really took a jump in the ESPN rankings the other day. In fact, little preview, we'll have an article on the site about that coming up soon. So again, a West Virginia offer, a West Virginia commitment, and a reevaluation, and there's a jump there. So would anticipate that on a lot of the guys.
Yep, agreed. And look, I talked about how West Virginia's average player rating was lower than most of the other schools, but let's be fair about it. What has Rich Rodriguez done his entire career? He's always found guys that are flying under the radar to a degree, right? That aren't as highly rated as maybe some other schools are getting, but he turns them into really good football players. And I think that's what he's going to do again. So I don't pay much attention to it. It is what it is. By the time Rich Rod's done with them, there might be 4- and 5-star guys. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I think Rich Rod has proven at multiple places, West Virginia included, and most recently at Jacksonville State. To your point, he's going to get guys that fit first and foremost the hard edge mentality. He's going to get these players that and he's openly talked about this. I'm not necessarily looking for the 5-star guy that has the 5-star talent. I'm looking for the 5-star guys that's 5 stars in coachability.
Exactly. And work ethic and attitude.
Yeah, I want a 5-star that's a 5-star because they don't mind to get my, me get up in there, a little bit and be able to take it. and so he's going to get players that fit that mold. So I wouldn't be too thrown back because of
Mm-hmm.
some ratings.
Agreed. I do want to mention another player that West Virginia has coming in. This is not a new commitment. Jet Walker, he was one of the first commitments for the 2026 class. He's a running back out of Georgetown, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He has also leaped up the ESPN rankings. He's now listed as the nation's 24th best running back and number 51 overall prospect in the state of Texas. And the state of Texas puts out a ton of good football players, high school football players.
Yeah.
Overall grade is 79. So Jet Walker moving up, and he'll probably continue. Look, all these guys have senior seasons to play. And by the time they're done, they'll probably all be rated higher. And some of these guys may not even stay committed to West Virginia. Let's not forget that either. It can always be a moving target. These are only verbal commitments; they're not signatures.
Yep.
But it's that time of year, and that's kind of what every school's out there now trying to reel these guys in. I think, Jonathan, do you think West Virginia's done pretty much with their football recruiting, or do you look for them to add a few more pieces?
I would say to add a few more pieces, maybe just a couple more as we get through the summer. The truth is, Couz, there's always these evaluations at camp. And, we saw that recently with, obviously, we talked about it, Malachi Thompson. Charlie Hannafin is a player that we're not necessarily going in depth on tonight, but it was a wide receiver, just an overall pretty good athlete. Had some Ivy League offers. I think Boston College had offered. Attends a West Virginia camp, 7-on-7. Coaches see what they see. All of a sudden, boom, offer, commitment. So I wouldn't rule out as we go through camp season throughout maybe the next 30 days, a couple more. But then after that, it probably will level out until it gets busy again.
Yeah.
because as you noted, and you don't want to be the negative here, but we've discussed on this show several players who have flipped a commitment from X school, right, to West Virginia. So
Right.
You're always on guard for that.
Yeah. I tell you what I've been most impressed with this recruiting 2026 class for West Virginia. You can tell this staff is working their tails off. Man, they're going all over the country. Jonathan, listen to this. They have 5 from Florida, 3 from Ohio, 2 from Alabama, 2 from Oklahoma, 2 from Texas, 1 from California, 1 Maryland, 1 Massachusetts, 1 New Jersey, 1 Oregon,
Yep.
1 Pennsylvania, 1 Tennessee, 1 West Virginia. So, I mean, they're traveling. I mean, they're nationwide, man. They're not, they're not sticking to that Pennsylvania, Ohio,
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying they're not recruiting those areas, because I think, as we've seen, the first couple of commitments in the 27 class are both out of Western Pennsylvania. But so they're still recruiting those areas hard, but this just shows the amount of work they're able to put in and willing to put in to go get the right guys,
Yeah.
and guys who will fit, regardless of where they're from, guys who will fit what they're wanting to do, and who is willing to be coached the way they want to coach.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is impressive to see West Virginia go to Oregon to get a defensive end, to go to Texas and get a running back, to go to Alabama and get an offensive lineman. All the while you're staying in your border states, right, and hitting some of those areas. I noted this the last time, Couz. Maybe it's the nostalgia in me, but I love seeing West Virginia get back down into Alabama. There's some really good talent, and you can find that talent and not necessarily have to compete against Auburn or Alabama, right? I mean,
Correct.
The players at Auburn and Alabama kind of think, I don't know. A lot of the schools have had some pretty darn good success with those players, including West Virginia. Yeah, you're right. I love seeing how they're all over the map. And we just touched on it with Goforth, and we've talked about it on this show prior. It's been really impressive to me in talking to some of these recruits after visits, after camps, after commitments. Typically, Couz, it's common to hear, yeah, it was a pretty good staff, it was a pretty good meeting because they committed, right? So obviously there's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
What's been pretty interesting to me is that the in-depth discussion that they give about the West Virginia coaching staff, whether it was pulled aside and talked, whether it was they slid over and just had a personal conversation at breakfast, or whether it was something nice for the family while they were on campus, or just going the extra mile. I've been really impressed by that. And so I think Rodriguez has done an excellent job. Still got that burn in him, that desire in to do a little recruiting after all these years.
Yep.
And he surrounded himself by a pretty talented staff that's able to get the job done.
Yep. Yeah, I love the strategy. They're not abandoning that Ohio, Pennsylvania, but they're not abandoning that Florida recruiting that West Virginia's always had some success with. But they're also going outside of that, right, to new areas. Dipping back into Texas, which Dana Holgorsen tried to do, had some success at it, but not to the extent he wanted. Maybe West Virginia can find some success in the state of Texas, right? I mean, there's plenty of players in the state of Texas. And West Virginia has to get back, and I think this is what they're doing. West Virginia wins by being different than everybody else. They've always done it. We saw it in basketball with Beeline. We saw it with Press Virginia. We saw it in football when Rich Rod first got there, and he was, with the zone read option. Dana at the time was a little different before everybody else kind of started doing the same thing. They win by being different and unique. The 3-3-5 defense, West Virginia was one of the first teams to run that. Now it's called on everywhere. Pretty much everybody in the Big 12 is running a 3-3-5 stack now, or a version of it. But what they can tap into now is the coaching philosophy. Rich Rod's offensive style. He can still find ways to tweak it and be different than everybody else. The way they teach the game, the way they coach their guys, they're going to outwork everybody else. That's kind of what they do. They've just got to be different because Rich Rod's he's smart enough to know that they're not going to be able to get a lot of 5-star kids at West Virginia. So you've got to make up for it by outworking people and being different than everybody else. Zach Alley's a defensive coordinator that can probably change some things up and be multiple and unique and different. So I think that's what they're doing here. They're finding guys that will fit into that and what they want to do. So, I probably being repetitive, but I think we need to look deeper than just at the star ratings and the player ratings and all this stuff, and look at the types of players they're bringing in and how they fit.
Yeah.
A Rich Rod and a Zach Alley system.
Yeah, and we do obviously have to get this entire staff the benefit of the doubt, in the sense of we really don't have much to go on, right? I mean, it's our first class at West Virginia, and so once we start to see some swings and maybe start to see some misses, you can kind of reevaluate it, because we don't know how these guys these players are going to turn out. All you can do right now is just trust the judgment. But once we get a little bit more of a sample size and we start to see some production, we start to see some players cycle in, maybe we'll have a better grasp. But I completely agree with you.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, and it's and they're not going to hit on every guy. They never no staff does.
Nobody does. Nobody bats 1,000.
Exactly.
And that's okay. But I think as we sit here today towards the end of June and we're starting to see these commitments roll in, it's really easy to dissect them, and that's what we're doing tonight, the best of our ability. But it's not going to be for a couple of years until you can really start to see the fruits of that labor, whether it panned out or not, and you can start to get a good gauge on the recruiting strategy, the areas in which they're targeting, the coaches who they have in certain positions. And it might take a while, but it'll give us a better grasp and understanding about how successful maybe their plan truly is.
Yep. Agreed. All right, let's jump over and talk a little bit of hoops, something we haven't talked about in a little bit.
Yep.
Or at least I haven't. West Virginia has a visitor out of the transfer portal visiting. It's been kind of quiet, not a lot of activity.
Yeah.
Around the basketball team, but I think they have 13 so far that they've signed, and they probably want at least 2 more, I would imagine. And it's a name that West Virginia fans will probably recognize, but it's Arturo Dean, who played at Oklahoma State last year, and he is reportedly visiting West Virginia, or was visiting there, I guess, today. Jonathan, maybe you have
Yep.
more details on
Yep.
that,
On campus today,
which is Wednesday.
which is Wednesday.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about Arturo Dean?
Fits the mold, Couz, of what Ross Hodge is looking for. Hey, we've discussed this before. You
Mhm.
know, the reality of it is, and I've been very adamant that I truly like how this roster has been constructed. In fact, we played a little bit of game a few weeks back about is it going to be a Sweet 16 team, and
Yeah.
maybe I took the leap of faith, and you stood back and watched me fall. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I said yes because I liked how this roster had been formed. But they were missing a couple pieces, right? And we felt like the backup point guard was one, and
Hmm.
we feel like maybe another depth piece at the center position was another.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, Arturo Dean, 5'11", 170 pounds from Oklahoma State, averaged almost 8 points a game, 3 rebounds, and about 3 assists. Because here's what really stuck out to me about him. Um, he really fits the mold to me of what Ross Hodge is looking to do. One thing that was pretty impressive to me is at 22 and 23 season, 2.5 steals a game.
Yep.
That went up to 3.5 steals 2 seasons ago. Last year, that dipped back down to 2.5 steals a game, but in almost 5 minutes less per game. And so he defends well, still can score the basketball, rebounds, assists. He does a little bit of everything. And again, something else, and we've talked about, and actually, you did a really good breakdown about this the last time we spoke about it. Some veteran players and some guys that have been able to
Hmm.
get in tough spots, play a lot of minutes, that are familiar and maybe have won in their past, right?
Yep.
So it should be noted too that Ross Hodge got a pretty up close look
Yep.
at him. Was it last year? Actually, I guess it was in
Yeah.
March.
Yeah. It was the
Um,
NIT.
NIT, and had 12 points, 7 boards, and 3 steals in that game in, I think, 29, 30 minutes. So,
Yep.
and actually played against West Virginia in Morgantown last year. So, uh, kind of familiar with his game.
Yeah, absolutely. He has started 74 games in his career at between his 2 years at FIU, Florida International, and his 1 year at Oklahoma State. He started 74 games, has played in 97 games, averaging 27 and a half minutes a game. So he came in as a freshman at FIU and was playing a ton of minutes as a
Yeah.
freshman, and averaged double figures both of his years at FIU. So this guy is a ball player, man. And he defensively, I mean, three steals a game, Jonathan. That's huge, man. That's a big number.
It's a big number, and it'd be interesting to see if he does end up committing to West Virginia, signing with West Virginia,
Mhm.
kind of how he fits the mold. I think what you're likely to see, Jasper Floyd, who followed Ross Hodge over from North Texas, extremely familiar at the point guard spot with how things will be ran
Mhm.
in the system. So does Dean fill that backup role? Does it allow Honor Huff to make sure he stays at the 2 guard position? I think Dean has the ability, even though at 5'11", can play both spots.
Mhm.
Um, but it's not somebody that's just going to come in and give you about 7 or 8 minutes a game in backup. This is somebody who's played 20 to 30 plus minutes a game.
Right.
Um, and so, and that's competitive Big 12 basketball, Couz. So,
Yeah.
somebody that's not going to be afraid, but that's somebody you can trust on the floor. Um, when you look at ways to round out this roster, um, it's a pretty darn good one to help round out the roster.
It kind of reminds me, last year I think it was it Joseph Yesufu that they
Yeah.
added late in the process last year.
Yeah.
A guy who had Power Four experience coming over, to come over with Darren DeVries, and this would be a similar, a guy who can play the point, which I know Yesufu was mostly as two guard, but could play the point if needed. I see Arturo as more of a pure point guard, honestly, but like you said, he could play either position. But depth at the point guard spot is critical.
Yeah.
And bringing him over, I think he could push Jasper Floyd potentially for that starting spot. And even if he don't, you've got a very valuable player that you can rely on to play solid minutes in case of an injury or foul trouble or whatever. And
Yeah.
that's how you build winning teams, is by building depth and quality depth. And I think this is would be, if they can get him, if they can knock him down, would be a huge piece to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is somebody that you can feel extremely comfortable with putting him on the floor. Again, anywhere from almost 30 minutes to 25 minutes a game, 30 plus games played. It also tells you he's pretty durable. I
Yeah,
mean,
true.
you can play 31, 34 games in the Big 12, pretty much night in and night out. You can bear the workload. And so, when you look at Jasper Floyd, you look at Arturo Dean, you look at Honor Huff, and kind of how they want to mold that backcourt together. Again, hasn't committed yet. My understanding is they've worked pretty hard to get him on campus. He's finally here. Generally speaking, if it's just ironing out some details, some NIL type stuff, but would absolutely be a huge commitment.
Yep. Do want to we don't have a whole lot more to talk about, but I do want to mention, we do need to mention a couple other things, Jonathan, about the baseball team. They ended up finishing the season ranked 13th in one poll, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I think it was 15th in another, the two I saw. So
Yeah.
top 15 ranking in two polls, at least two polls. So congrats to them. And then Steve Sabins, the coach, named AB, the American Baseball Coaches Association East. I guess I said that right. American
Yep.
Baseball Coaches Association
Yep.
East Region Coach of the Year. So hats off to Steve Sabins, year one, earning that honor. Future is definitely bright. The baseball team has added several quality transfers.
They have.
I don't. We can get into that, Jonathan, if you want to, but I mean, you again, he's written about all these guys over at the website. But
Yeah, they've been really impressive. I just would quickly say, they had a lot of success last year out of the D2 ranks, bringing those players up. Um, and they're going back to the well. Several of these have been their conference players of the year, D2 All-American pitchers. So they have been extremely active. In fact, late last night they added a D3 catcher who is extremely talented behind the plate, especially as a hitter. But yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But just icing on the cake of an incredible baseball season. And again, not to do a shameless plug, but if you'll go over to the site, there's articles on every single one of those, the rankings of the season, and then Saban's getting Coach of the Year. So some pretty good analysis of those players over at the site.
and the one player specifically, speaking of ABCA, Ian Korn, the D2 pitcher, was named American Baseball Coaches Association Rawlings Division II National Pitcher of the Year.
Yeah.
So, and there's a guy by the name of Derek Clark that had a pretty good one season at West Virginia a couple years ago. He was from the D2 ranks as well, if I recall.
Yeah.
They've done a great job grabbing those D2 guys, and Ian Korn. And by the way, he spells his name Korn, which just so happens to be how one of my favorite rock bands spells their name. So if he doesn't, if his walkout song is not Korn, I'd be very disappointed.
You would, but he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then the other one I probably would highlight too, Couz, is Dawson Montesa. D2 Adelphia University, was an All-American there last year. We've talked a lot of stats in football on this show tonight. How about this one? Last season, I think it was 1.99 ERA, 72 innings, only struck out 105 batters. That's
wow.
That's in the baseball world what we call getting it done. So 8-1 last year in 12 games. He's going to have 2 years, so 2 seasons of eligibility left, and so I made a comment the other day. One of the struggles that not just West Virginia, but a lot of college baseball teams struggle with is pitching. Games run deep, pitchers run deep, and credit to Steve Sabins. We don't know how this is going to turn out, but credit to Steve Sabins. Has made this a point of emphasis this offseason in recruiting, and it's almost every day where we're hearing an All-American is coming in. Or a player of the year is coming in. So he's going out and getting some talent for sure.
Absolutely. Jonathan, you and I had kind of talked about this. Oh, by the way, before I move on to the next thing, pitching, I think we could say pitching would be very important to this team, considering that was kind of their downfall. I don't want to say downfall. That sounds super negative, but it kind of hurt them there in the super regionals there because the bats were getting it done. It was the pitching that really hurt them, and so adding more pieces to that bullpen and to that pitching roster is going to be a good thing. But you and I had kind of talked about doing this, but we didn't plan it before the show. But I'm going to throw you a curveball here. Okay.
Okay. All right.
We're going to try to close the show with a non-sports topic here. What is your favorite Little Debbie snack cake?
Oh. Well, okay. So I will say, and this is probably not. It's probably low on the list of a lot of people. I'm an oatmeal cake kind of guy.
Oh no, Nick Saban Jr. Here. Nick Saban wannabe here.
For those that don't know, I'm a golfer. I love to play golf a lot. Man, nothing hits on the golf course like an oatmeal cake and a Coke Zero. But it's not my favorite. The favorite to me, hands down, no questions asked, zebra cake.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're not a big chocolate guy then?
No. Crazy enough.
Okay.
I'm not. Now I could do a fudge round.
Now we're talking. But
it's too much chocolate.
Okay. All right.
So
first off,
not much, but zebra cakes. All the way.
None of them are bad. To be honest with you, it's hard to find a bad Little Debbie cake. Just to be upfront,
that's the comment of the night that wins. It's hard.
I do like both of those. I will even occasionally grab an oatmeal pie on my way out the door, and that'll be my breakfast. Occasionally.
Yeah.
So I like oatmeal pies myself. Zebra cakes are okay too. Haven't had one in quite a while, but you unknowingly stole my thunder because my favorite is hands down fudge rounds. I absolutely love them, especially the big double decker ones that you buy in the convenience store.
You can't get this. Here's the thing about the Little Debbie's, Couz, is that you can't get the small ones. You have to splurge for the big ones.
Yeah.
They taste better. And I think one of the reasons why I'm okay with the oatmeal is because deep down, it's almost like the old, you ever hear anybody say that one of the reasons why they don't feel guilty about eating Chick-fil-A is because it's healthy? You know, like they justify their eating. I feel like when I'm eating an oatmeal, I feel like I'm justifying that's really not that bad. And then when Miss Debbie graces us with her presence around Christmas time, well, it's hard to beat the Christmas
tree cake.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm not, that's an interesting fun fact. I'm not a huge chocolate guy.
Funny story. Then we'll close the show. When I was a teenager, me and my buddies, they knew I loved fudge rounds. It was an ongoing, it was just a known thing. I was a huge fudge round guy. Always have been. And Jonathan, you will recognize the people that aren't from this area are not going to have a clue what we're talking about, but who cares? One night, me and my buddies were hanging out. It was probably around midnight or close to it. And we're at, I don't know, probably right around where Angelo's Pizza is, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're driving around in a truck, and there's a shopping cart out in the parking lot that somebody left there. And first I told them, I said, listen, they said, Couz, if you run all the way to Long John Silver's and back, because it's all the way at the end of that shopping center parking lot, we'll give you I'll buy you a box of fudge rounds. I said, you're on. Well, I'll take off, and I'm running, to Long John Silver's, because I was in shape at that point in my life. And I'm running, and it's a pretty long way. It's probably what? What do you think? It half a mile,
Yeah, I mean, easy.
maybe
Yeah,
at least a
yeah.
quarter of a mile. Anyway, about halfway there, my buddies follow me in the truck, and they end up putting me in a shopping cart and pushing me to Long John Silver's and back in a shopping cart with their truck. They were in the truck. I'm in the shopping cart. Anyway, we were just being stupid, harmless fun. We didn't hurt anybody because there was nobody there. I was probably 18 at the time. Never did get my box of fudge rounds.
Did it all for nothing.
Well, the guy who promised me that did eventually come through. I'm opening my wedding gifts after my wife and I got married, and he had bought me that box of fudge rounds for my wedding gift.
That's pretty good.
So I got a box of fudge rounds as a wedding present. Man.
A true friend.
That's how much I love fudge rounds. But man, those double-decker ones that you get at like a Go Mart or a or Little General or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not getting paid to say that, by the way, Little General or Go Mart, unless you want to throw me some money.
Which we were, but we're not.
Yeah. But the guys over at Three Guys can take care of that. But yeah, it's can't have too much chocolate. That's my answer.
Yeah. That's the old Little Debbie debate is close to the favorite cereal debate. The problem is there's so many, and Miss Debbie does a really good job of having a lot of good cakes.
Big Deborah.
Yeah, so there's not many. I'm typically out on the over the real chocolatey ones, and I'm not a big jelly type fan. So anything that has like a jelly type in it, I'm not. But yeah, zebra cakes are my go to when I want a guilty pleasure, and an oatmeal when I actually try and convince myself it's really not as bad as it is.
It's got oatmeal in it. It's got to be good, right?
Yeah. Well, if you tell yourself that enough, I guess maybe it is. I don't know.
Fudge round, there ain't nothing healthy about that. Fudge and it's round. That's pretty much it.
It's a bad combination.
Yeah.
Bad combination.
But anyway, we're going to try to throw in a few things. And that actually ended up turning into a pretty long conversation. We might have spent more time. Maybe we just need to do a show about Little Debbie cakes. I don't know.
Yeah. Presented by Little Debbie. Yeah, there you
go. Little Debbie, if you're listening,
reach out.
But anyway, that was fun. We're going to try to start doing a few more things like that just to kind of change it up a little bit. Sometimes you get, it's cool to just talk about stuff outside of sports.
Sure.
But anyway, Jonathan and I had kind of kicked around the idea, but we had never actually decided when we were going to start it and what. But I decided to throw him a curveball tonight. But anyway, Jonathan, any last thing you want to say about West Virginia, any of the sports topics we discussed tonight?
Nope, I enjoyed it, Couz, as always. I'm really excited. Here we are, end of June, so we're approaching July, and Couz, it's not much longer before things get real when it comes to football season, and so we'll have a lot to talk about. We're kind of spacing this out right now, about every couple weeks, because of summer vacations, a little bit of travel, and not as much discussion to be going on. But it won't be long. You better rest now. I'm looking forward to some position breakdowns and some records and analysis and stuff like that. And then I guess I would just say finally, man, I appreciate everybody that has come over to the site. We've really tried to go along with you. You've been I texted you the other day, Couz, that I linked you to one of the articles when we were talking about the NIL, and I said, I don't want you to get the big head on me here, but I labeled you a prominent voice in West Virginia sports, but I was true in that. And you've been around for a while and done a good job on especially on the video platform here on your channel. And all we're looking to do is convert faces over to written a little bit. And just give you more options.
Yeah.
And so a lot of great West Virginia people out there, a lot of people that are working really hard covering this team. And we encourage you to give everybody a read and everybody a listen. But
yeah,
we thank you for those that have come along so far.
Yeah. And I think just the way we're kind of differentiating ourselves, what we're trying to do is we're not going to give you a lot. There's a few of them, but we're not going to give you the really long, uh, super long articles. We're going to for the most part, we're going to keep it short. Now, Jonathan does his on my Martin Mind piece that's a little longer. Once in a blue moon, we'll do something a little, special things like that. But for the most part, we're giving you the quick, brief synopsis, the rundown of what's going on, just so you can keep updated with what's going on. And then we're also doing it. We're not going to have a ton of. We do have some ads on there, but you're not going to see a ton of the pop-up ads that pop up when you're changing from one page to another. We've tried to limit those because personally, as someone who likes to read articles myself, I find those to be extremely annoying.
Yeah.
So we've taken those off. We're trying to make it the user experience as good as possible. So, but if you have any recommendations, if any of you listening to this that have read our work and plan to, let us know. Give us feedback on the site. There's a place on the site you can leave comments. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you want to reach out to me by email at couz.walker@gmail.com, you can reach out to us through DMs on X at Couz206 or at Jonathan K. Martin or at and I forgot to change the Twitter thing again, but it's at WV Sports Chat on X. Let us know, man, what we can do better. If there's something you want us to write about, let us know. And if there's a way we can improve what we're doing over there, we have no issue with constructive criticism.
Yeah. And, one of the things we've tried to do is, because we both work full-time jobs. We have this show, you have more shows, and we're on the go. And we realize that a lot of people are in our exact same situation and in our shoes. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times what our idea here is, you may only have that minute to just be kept up to date with the latest commitment or the latest baseball signing or this or that pertaining to West Virginia. So, we're not trying to make you read something for 4 or 5 minutes, but we are trying to keep you up to date. And that's our idea behind it. So we just appreciate everybody that's followed along so far. And we're excited as the summer rolls into the season and see where things go.
Yep. Jonathan, and appreciate Jonathan. Appreciate you for all your work over there, man. Couldn't do it without you, and appreciate you co-hosting this with me. And again, I don't know if we might see you next week, might see you in a couple weeks, but we will see you again soon. Thanks to everybody for whether you're watching, listening. We appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you again next time. God bless, Q Country Roads, and let's go Mountaineers.